Welcome to part 3 of Mixing Match. And we are still in the one from 4 days ago. We're going to cover a little bit of weather and pestilence for a few seconds.
Close to 100 people stood near a government building in Orsk, Russia, demanding more assistance. Shame, some shout. Putin, help us, others plead. This is the worst flooding Western Siberia's seen in 70 years.
70 years.
Over 100,000 people in Russia and Kazakhstan were forced to evacuate their homes after melting snow pushed the Ural River over the edge and caused a dam to burst. Homes are completely submerged, and the few residents still in Orsk say basic necessities.
Let's make sure you understand what this is. This is part 3 of Mixing Match. April the 14th, 2024.
Necessities are almost obsolete. There's no water, this woman says. We can't find drinking water. The bottled water is running out as well. As rescue boats moved through the flooded streets, local officials reiterated calls to evacuate. One mayor saying, absolutely everyone who lives in the flood area must leave their houses. Don't postpone the evacuation. The situation will only get worse in the upcoming 2 days. According to specialists, the water will surpass dangerous levels. Don't wait for it. Leave right now. It's been 2 days since the Orsk Dam collapsed. So far, regional authorities say at least 4 people have been killed, and the cost of the damage is estimated at 1.2 billion rubles, or $12.9 million US dollars. Everyone has gone. Only 3 or 4 of us are left guarding here, Olga explains. Even though we have no access to water, electricity, or gas, we are still holding on. I feel sorry for the people affected, but what can we do? The Kremlin declared a federal emergency on Sunday, and according to state-run media, the governor of the Orenburg region has promised compensation payments to those forced out of their homes. It isn't much, just 10,000 rubles, or 108 US dollars per month for the next 6 months. For those who have lost everything, it's little comfort, and their desperation is only growing as 3 other regions are told to prepare for the possibility of even more flooding. Overnight, strong storms moving across the southern U.S., lashing areas from Austin, Texas to western Louisiana with hail, heavy winds, and flooding. In parts of Mississippi, torrential rain and fierce winds send trees smashing into semis, causing a serious backup on Interstate 20. Drivers also facing hazardous conditions.
I have told you that this stuff was going to come until you renounce your idol gods and tear down your idols and return to the one true God, which is Jesus.
Traveling on soaked streets of Shreveport, Louisiana. Fallen trees leaving some roads impassable. Heavy rain inundating roadways in the small town of Kingston, Louisiana, as hail battered the area around Austin, Texas.
The size of the hail was pretty intense and obviously shattered the glass, damaged the car on the side.
Across the country, 4 million Americans under a tornado watch, and more than 100,000 in Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi were left without power overnight. In central Arkansas, cleanup is now underway after a small town was devastated by a so-called microburst, packing 80 to 90 mile-per-hour winds Monday night, ripping off roofs and flipping over this mobile home.
Hopefully people, listen and pay attention to the surroundings around them, because you never know, and it's just in the Lord's hands.
You may have heard the phrase, God's hand of protection. It seems that it is something God would do, keep a person or nation in the shelter of his hand. It also seems logical to think that in his fierce wrath,
It was something God did for years. Thousands of years, in fact. God has kept his hand of protection upon America and all nations, while you all spat in his face. while you rejected him and shook your fist up at the sky and said, we don't want you. While you threw him out and threw his commandments out of everything. You took his Bible and threw it down like it was nothing. That's his word. You do not reverence God because you do not fear him. But you will. Oh, how you will. He hasn't even started his wrath yet. But when he does, you won't have to ask, is this the wrath of God? You will definitely know that Jesus has sent his wrath upon all of you. You could still repent. There's still time. I'm going to get the next footage up. Okay, we're going to hit one more thing on this particular video before I go out into the next footage.
To normal. They will only get worse. As the birth pains continue to become more frequent and more intense, one has to wonder, how close are we to the rapture and the 7-year tribulation?
Right now, syphilis cases are surging in the United States at its highest level since the 1950s.
The people of America can eradicate the venereal diseases.
Rates of the sexually transmitted infection, once nearly eliminated in this country, skyrocketing for every age group, with experts pointing to a bunch of different reasons for this.
This is unfortunately a symptom of not investing in the American public health system in the way that we need it to be invested in.
One of them, substance abuse, that's on the rise and goes hand in hand with more risky sexual behavior. And another, maybe surprising one, the advent of PrEP, a highly effective drug for preventing HIV, introduced in 2012.
It's time to step up, prep up.
That hundreds of thousands of men who have sex with men take.
1 Corinthians 6:9 through 11. Or do you not know that the unrighteous...
And you still think that it's all right for men to go out here having sex with men and women to have sex with women. And there's all these diseases. Which is God's way of saying the wages of sin is death. The wages of sin is death. The wages of sin is death. That's sin. But you think you can outdo the hand of God with your pharmakia. And that you can cure with your pharmakia. And that you don't need God because you have hit. You're going to find out. Let me get the next footage.
The national presidential campaign, an Arizona law restricting abortion is galvanizing both sides of the debate.
With weeks to go before the law goes into effect, Arizona lawmakers are fighting it out in the legislature. Yesterday, Democrats tried to open debate on repealing the law, but the Republican majority blocked the move.
In Arizona, a scramble this morning.
Shame on you!
State Republicans choosing not to vote on an effort to repeal the controversial abortion ban yesterday, met with protests on the House floor.
Hold the vote! Hold!
I told you, this stuff right here is just a big old show. And right here's further proof of that. That all this is out of Washington. It's a big old show to keep you distracted and to keep you from watching for the Lord and Savior. And that's exactly what you're doing. Is staying distracted by the affairs of this life. You're not really watching for Jesus and you're missing all the signs of His coming. You're going to be destroyed.
It comes after the state's Supreme Court reinstated an 1864 law banning nearly all abortions. No exceptions for rape or incest, only for the life of the mother. And doctors who perform the procedure could face prison time. Even after saying he would leave abortion to the states, former President Trump says this goes too far.
That'll be straightened out. I'm sure that the governor and everybody else are going to bring it back into reason.
A ban this strict is unpopular in Arizona and unpopular nationwide, a political reality Mr. Trump appears to understand, as he, for the first time this campaign, says he would not support a national abortion ban. As president, Mr. Trump had backed a national abortion ban at 20 weeks, and just last month signaled openness to a ban after 15 weeks.
I'm thinking in terms of that, and it'll come out to something that's very reasonable.
President Biden argues this is not about states' rights, but women's rights. Our Peter Alexander at the White House.
What do you say to the people of Arizona right now who are witnessing a law go in place that dates back to the Civil War era?
Elect me. I'm in the 20th century, 21st century, not back then.
The Bible tells us in the last days that people would lack sympathetic understanding, that people would
elect me. Both of them are for abortion now. So just pick one. Or pray for God to just go ahead and do His will. One or the t'other. But do something. Do something. I myself am praying for God to go ahead and do His will. He's going to anyway, whether you pray for it or not. The Lord's will be done. And it don't matter what you think. He didn't ask your opinion.
be unfeeling and pitiless toward their own family, as we read in 2 Timothy 3:1-5. This know also, that in the last days perilous times shall come, for men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, without natural affection, truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent, fierce, despisers of those that are good, traitors, heady, high-minded, lovers of pleasures more than lovers of God, having a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof. From such turn away. Without natural affection is the Greek word astorgos, which means without affection for family, parents or children, thus hard-hearted towards kindred. I can think of nothing more hard-hearted towards kindred than those who want to murder their own child. Many people in our nation today exhibit.
I have seen firsthand the hard-heartedness of family in the last couple years. I don't need anybody to tell me that these things are being fulfilled, because they absolutely are.
Insanity, because God gave them over to a debased mind, and the endless, insane news headlines prove it. Romans 1:28-32. And even as they did not like to retain God in their knowledge, God gave them over to a debased mind, to do those things which are not fitting, being filled with all unrighteousness, sexual immorality, wickedness, covetousness, maliciousness, full of envy, murder, strife, deceit, evil-mindedness. They are whisperers, backbiters, haters of God, violent, proud, boasters, inventors of evil things, disobedient to parents, undiscerning, untrustworthy, unloving, unforgiving, unmerciful, who knowing the righteous judgment of God, that those who practice such things are deserving of death, not only do the same, but also approve of those who practice them.
Donald Trump says his decision basically follows the Supreme Court's decision to give the authority regarding abortion back to the states. While Trump maintains this is mainly about winning in November, those pro-life groups taking offense say the former president sounds more like a pro-choice candidate.
My view is now that we have abortion where everybody wanted it from a legal standpoint, the states will determine by vote or legislation or perhaps both, and whatever they decide must be the law of the land. In this case, the law of the state.
That was enough to spark controversy within the party on this volatile issue, because Trump stayed away from supporting any federal ban in favor of the states.
I think people need to be very careful about the snake in the grass.
Former Planned Parenthood director Abby Johnson, now a pro-life advocate, believes the former president is abandoning pro-life politics, comparing his words to those who support abortion.
If women want to murder their babies, that's up to them. That's between them and their families, which is exactly what he said.
Do what's right for your family and do what's right for yourself. Do what's right for your children. At the end of the day, it's all about will of the people. That's where we are right now, and that's what we want.
Mike Pence called his former boss's decision a slap in the face.
All right. I'm going to put up a link in the description box to this. But I told you, it's all just a big show. Don't concern yourself with the affairs of this life. The Lord is coming soon. I'll get that. See you in the next video, and we'll be starting with new footage.